Hello there. My name's Mark, aka the Canardian, and this is episode 71 of Holocron Chronicles. I am joined, as always, by my dancing trusty co-pilot, Charlie Carden. Charlie, how you doing tonight?
Woo, this is my first of about 3 jackets that I own in Star Wars that I finally decided to wear. This is Colonel Sanders. We saw a Colonel in, not in what we're going to talk about this evening, but back in, what was the previous live action show? I think back in Mando season 3, we saw Tim Meadows' character was a Colonel. So a Colonel is just, it's the Ralston Purina, but without the last blip. Ralston Purina being a dog food company I don't know if they're still around, but it was a dog food company. I know they had a plant in Battle Creek, Michigan, because I've seen this pattern on a wall down there. It's weird stuff that you remember. But anyway, yes, I have an OC who is a Rebel pilot, and he has a story on how this jacket, which was Poe Dameron's from The Last Jedi, originally belonged to him. And it was, when you saw it, it was really weathered. It had the Rebel symbol on it. It was all worn off because it belonged to my dude who got blown up on Hosnian Prime. Ouch, that's a bummer. But his jacket was Poe Dameron's. It was a hand-me-down.
Excellent.
So creative.
Very creative. I love it. I feel I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, and I've got my Kyber crystal. I should turn that on, light it up. There we go.
The stars are made of Kyber.
But I'm not dressed up, and so you're throwing on your jacket, and our guest is like full on Thrawn minus Peter. You didn't believe yourself, but aside from that, you're good to go. Peter Stine, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Doing all right.
Excellent. We're happy to have you. Last time we had you was Andor, I think. Doubleheader, Charlie said, was great memory on you, Charlie. I knew we had him a couple of times, but the doubleheader for Andor.
Peter is very memorable because Peter is, of course, my main co-host over on Code 47, always comes to the party in uniform. He's got a uniform. It typically matches the subject we're talking about. So Peter in this one, even though it didn't necessarily match Andor, was in a Jedi hood. There were Jedi flashbacks.
I was wearing the Emperor's get up.
I was just going to say he threw out the Emperor impression too. It wasn't just the cloak. Like, you came ready to go. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. But we're happy to have you back. We're going to be talking about Ahsoka for the first time since we're a little bit delayed, but we'll get to that in a second. But first, we have to thank our Patreon supporters. Charlie, would you like to jump through that list?
What? You're going to put me to the work? Oh, my goodness. These are the fine folks that make it possible for myself and Mark and Todd, our partner, and Peter, and a lot of other people that join in on us making additional content for the ears of the people that like us enough to chip in a couple of bucks to fund things along. If you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, you can do a free 7-day trial. Check out our wares. Peter and I, Peter's joining me for the first time in the studio to record a segment of The Facts of Geek Life series. We're going to be talking about something I'm not going to say. You'll just have to tune in. And Todd records a couple of different shows. Mark, it's been a while since we've heard your voice, but we're looking forward to re-engaging Mark in some Patreon content.
My wife and I had a conversation yesterday. We're gearing some stuff up. I can't give a solid date, but some stuff on the docket. Yep.
But at any rate, and again, jump over to patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Try us out for 7 free days. And then stick around if you like what you hear. Just like these folks on the Best Bud level, that's Jamie Prinky. Our BFF level folks are the wonderful Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry, my dear friend Missy Merchant, and Andy Milliken. We thank you for your patronage on the Patreon.
Yeah, thank you. That's so great. While you're doing that, you can also pop over to YouTube, subscribe, like, share some of the stuff over there. We'd love to see the YouTube subscribers jump up. And if you're looking for a lightsaber, it's been a little while since I plugged this. So Level Up Sabers, there's an affiliate link down there. You can get yourself a saber and kick some money back to us that way as well. With all that said, with all that out of the way, let's get to know a little bit more about Peter. Peter, you've already introduced yourself. We already found out your Star Wars origin of sorts, but there's a few new questions that we're going to go over. And I'm going to start with your favorite lightsaber design.
Favorite lightsaber design. So my favorite lightsaber design, and I've tried to design a couple myself, but I always fall back to the original Obi-Wan Kenobi from Episode 4. And of course, it's a variant of Luke Skywalker in Episode 6. There's just something about that particular emitter and narrow neck combination that I just really, really dig.
Dig it.
So that's like my favorite lightsaber design, and any variant of that. So, but I also really like that graphics clamp. So whenever someone takes it away, it's like, still need that.
Yeah. I love Luke's green saber is absolutely one of my favorites as well. And like you said, it's basically kind of that inspiration, that offshot. I just happen to like the green over the blue, which is why I kind of gravitate towards that one instead of Obi-Wan's. But it is such a great design. And one of the things that drives me crazy looking at like replica sabers and that kind of stuff is you can't get a practical one, you can't get one that functions with that narrow neck. So it is very sci-fi. It's very impractical in a physical world that we occupy, to have something that you can attach a blade to and actually swing around and hope that it stays together.
It just flies apart.
But that's the great thing about it is it's so out there, and it's such a simple, elegant, but also impossible kind of design for it's such a perfect lightsaber. It's
the fantasy, the fantasy, the space fantasy, space wizards and such.
I'm sure we covered this before, but lightsaber color of choice based on your lightsaber design. Do you like the blue with that one, or do you pair it off?
I kind of bounce a little bit, but I actually tend towards green, which is probably why I really like Luke's.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Excellent. Your favorite Star Wars collectible item that you own? Do you own a replica saber, or is there something else?
I have an Ultra Saber, but it's not a replica of a film saber. So I've been kind of debating whether or not I'm going to pick up Luke's lightsaber, but they're, to get a good one, they're a little expensive.
Well, that's the one that I've got, but I have the very, shopping off the shelf Hasbro version, which I still find to be very faithful. I've not, for lack of cosplay, I've not broke that one out in quite some time. But Mark really, and Peter has heard about this as well, because we did a Star Trek photo shoot just a couple weeks ago here in Grand Rapids. We're thinking about doing something in the springtime here in Michigan. Mark, it's a long trip, but if I could coax you over to our side of the pond meaning, of course, the Great Lakes, pick a Great Lake of your choosing. And I'd even talking to our friend Allie Graz out there in New Jersey. I said, everybody come to Michigan. We'll do a thing. It'll be awesome. Peter, I've anointed him as our Luke Skywalker. He's got the hair. I'll toss him the saber. He could be Luke. You're Obi-Wan. I'll be my guy, or I'll be Old Man Han Solo, because I have that jacket too. We can make thing of it. Our photographer is fantastic. I mean, you've seen the work. It's been all over my socials. I mean, the guy does good stuff. So stuff. I don't know. So put a pin in that. That'd be springtime, March, April, something like that. So
that'd be cool. That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, but the favorite one that I have that I actually own, collectible wise, something I picked up recently, and I brought it because I can. Haha.
That's awesome.
I've got one of those over here.
Yep, the Black Series, Phase 2. It was nice. I saw it came. They started announcing pre-orders, and I was like, I love my Clone Troopers. I can't let that pass. I pre-ordered it, and it showed up way sooner than it should have.
Wow.
Usually, if you order from Amazon, that frequently would be like, "Oh, pre-order date is December."
Like it's going to be like 3 months. I was like, okay, my budget can handle that. It's coming tomorrow.
I had a figure that showed up that way too. Hey, December 1st pre-order showed up yesterday. Now I will tell you the Clone Trooper one that I got from my figure collecting partner Derek. That is like an old one from like a kid's one from the early 2000s that he sold me for $7. So sorry,
I have one from right around when Attack of the Clones came out, and it's the size of a bucket. It has no electronics.
That's this thing.
It's just a piece of plastic. It has the narrower visor, so it's not like that one. But it's like you see this bucket. It's like 1.5 the size.
You're right.
And if you put your head in it, it just you turn your head too fast, and your helmet's going this way, and your face is going that way.
But it looks great. It looks great on a shelf.
Yeah.
So that's the Black Series, lights up, does all the stuff. It's similar to the Mando helmet behind me.
I mean, this one doesn't light up. It has a microphone. But...
Hasbro does nice stuff where the figure line might be dying out. Their cosplay, or basically their role play, if you will, stuff is still really crushing it.
The sad thing is the grill doesn't actually have holes in it, so you can't breathe through the front.
That's
the one downside to this helmet.
You're not wearing it for long, or you're like, oh, I'm going to die for my craft, literally. I'm going
the Mando
down.
helmet as well. There's nothing. So you just you start to breathe
through the bottom.
Anything, you're just like fog. Good luck seeing you, chump. Even I mean, it's a slit to begin with. It doesn't take much.
Yeah, it's rough.
There's so much. Yeah, they're fun though. They're fun, and they look badass on a shelf or on your head. That's awesome.
Right.
Any other collectibles? Now I'm like interested in your whole collection now. Anything else jumping?
I live with my brother, and he's got the Black Series Darth Vader, so that's another one that we really, really enjoy. We got it before the price jumped, so that was fun.
Right? Yeah, that's my Luke Sabers the same way. Mine was $150, and now they're almost $100 more.
Yeah, so I didn't manage to get a Stormtrooper for that reason. I've got one of the old school Darth Vader voice changers from when Episode 3 came out.
Nice.
Doesn't work anymore, but it's still there.
Its voice has forever changed.
Outside of that, the other cool things of note in the house is we have a from 77 vinyl of the original soundtrack.
I have that too, Peter. You've seen it. It's in my downstairs bathroom. I have it framed.
Yeah, so I have in fact turned it on and listened to it just because.
Yeah,
but.
That's
like the other coolest thing that I've got.
That's amazing. That's did you is that like a collectible thing, or is that like a family?
Oh, that's my mom's when Star Wars came out.
Wow. Your mom's so cool. His mom also recently made the creme de la creme of Star Trek cosplays, the Monster Maroon. Peter wore it to an event we did earlier this month. I was blown away, and I'm like, she's making one of those for me, right? He said no.
She doesn't want to make another one.
I'm like, but I'm your commanding officer. He's like, well, you're not hers.
And the mom takes precedent over you, Charlie. I'm sorry, but everyone's mom she's higher ranked than any other.
Grand Admiral mom.
Yeah, absolutely. The mamas definitely rule. So what your mother, was she a Star Wars fan? Was she a vinyl fan? A little bit of both?
She was a Star Wars fan.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think she saw the original Star Wars when it came out.
Nice.
Or at least pretty quickly. She saw it when it was in the theaters, and then went and got the record shortly thereafter.
I mean, what's crazy about it, and we've talked about original Star Wars before, is that movie was in theaters for well over a year because people just kept going to see it, and there was no home video market. So it'd be like, hey, want to go see Star Wars for the 47th time? Yes, let's do that. Because it just kept playing. That's just wild. I would love to live in a time where you could just go see Episode 4 in the theater, like whenever for for a year.
One I haven't seen in the theater, which is annoying.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know when was the last time they put those on the big screen. It's been an awful. It's been in the 2000s. They must have re-released it at some point. I don't know. I'm curious, but they're due, right? There's got to be some reason they do it again. But anyway.
Maybe before Rey's trilogy, they'll re-release everything.
It would be amazing. Yes. Spend 2 days watching all of the theatrical films. Never leave. Never go to the bathroom.
If they dropped them out like they did with the special editions, what was that? A month difference?
It was interesting. They did a month between, I think, A New Hope and Empire. And Empire was doing so well, they might have pushed the other two back like 2 or 3 weeks, because they're like, we're still making money with these, which is crazy. But, again, just like the commercials at the time said, for a whole generation, you've only seen it this big, and they show, stuff happening on a TV screen, and and then the X-Wing flies through the TV, and it's,
I remember that as a 7-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was
blew my mind.
It was wild. Yeah. Well, yeah, as I told Todd and I were college roommates at Michigan State, and it was January, February, and March of 1997. Going to see those at the Outer Six at the Meridian Mall in Okemos, Michigan. Good stuff.
So I was 12. You said 97?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's 12 years old. So I haven't seen those in theater since I was 12. So that's
wild.
It's due. Come on.
We are due. Come on, Disney. You're bleeding cash right now. Put those movies back. I'm serious. You can put those movies back out. Think about how much money they could make.
I would watch all 9 in theaters again, just for that experience. I'd watch everything. I'd watch just throw in Rogue One, throw in Solo. Just give me
Gimme.
Imagine that, like a full year or something, like close to it. Of here's every month there's a Star Wars re-release kind of thing.
Oh my God, that's an amazing idea. Amazing. Come on, Disney. If you're not going to come down on us for talking about, Ahsoka, then if the cost of that is coming out and you guys dumping these movies back in theater again, we'll take our slings. That's fine. I'll take it. Do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Do it. Yes. Favorite after that impression, but we talked about some cool collectibles. So I'm not sure where you're going with this, Peter. Your favorite affiliation, is it the clones, Jedi, bounty hunters, Empire, Sith?
I probably have to go with the Grand Army of the Republic. I do really like the Imperial aesthetic, but the Grand Army is same aesthetic, but up until the ending part of 3, the good guys. So.
Yes, they were very good until they were shooting Jedis in the face or the back or the
really
ass.
Good until they weren't. Yeah.
I mean, think about what was the name of that the blue chick who was in the halter top and the pants.
Sakura.
Yeah, who just got 40 shots to the ass. That's how they killed her.
Under a mushroom.
Yeah, under a mushroom. Yeah, what a way to go. That was just. But yeah, other than that, super good guys. But then they weren't.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of what a way to go, the last question that I don't think you've answered before is we have this new question that we've been running for a little bit, but it's basically Star Wars, kind of constant suffering and tragedy and cool laser swords and ponchos. So if you were in the Star Wars universe, what tragic yet preferably hilarious way would you die?
Because I've watched Rogue One recently, or was it Rebels? I forget exactly who did this. But remember there's a shot where one of the ships tries to go to hyperspace through a hangar from one side to the other and manages to pull it off. Yeah, I'd try to do something like that cool, but I would pancake myself on the side of the station.
I've made a grave miscalculation, literally. You didn't put the right coordinates into the Navicomputer?
No, I was too busy hitting it, trying to turn it back on.
Yeah, like Fonzie in the jukebox. That reference might be before your time, Peter. Sorry.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I like that. Just hyperspacing yourself into a wall.
Right.
That's the first time we've heard that one for sure.
Oh, really?
Doing a holdo maneuver, but not on purpose.
It wouldn't even destroy the station. I wasn't going fast enough. Just
enough for
close.
Some text to be like, "Oh, that guy was an idiot."
Yep. There'd be some wreckage and a 1-inch thick layer of protein.
Oh, it'd be squeegee time. That's one of my favorites from the one of the scenes in I think one of the Lego Star Wars games is you're going through the Death Star and you go into a little ante room, so you got to put something together, and you control one of those derricks with the guys squeegeeing, and you move the stormtroopers around so they can clean the window, and when it's cleaned, the window explodes and they jump in and start shooting at you. That's you.
Yep. That's the aftermath.
That's the aftermath.
Yeah. I like it. Bug splatter, hyperspace attempt. Definitely the first time we've heard that. Thank you for most people. It's like I try, myself included. It's like I try to pet the snarling space puppy and get my throat ripped out.
Yeah, I thought about standing around and get stepped on by a bantha, but I think the hyperspace pancake is more fitting.
Way better. That's great.
There is absolute honor in that demise, without a doubt.
I like it. Yeah. I also like my son's been obsessed with Peter. I don't know if you remember this, the Crazy Frog song.
Yep.
To like Axel F soundtrack. That's the one. But it was all like
from my hometown of Detroit.
Dance kind, and the little frog are like like I picture you making that sound before trying to take off for some reason. I don't even know where he found that. Like, he just watches stuff on YouTube and we'll put things on for him. And every once in a while it'll autoplay something weird. And he found that, and now he asks for it, which is just,
oh boy,
that's trouble.
Just great.
That's trouble.
So that's a thing that happens. But I imagine that, like the takeoff and then smack into the wall. All right. So like I said, we're going to talk about Ahsoka. As of right now, so we're recording this on Monday, and there's a tentative agreement in place that may end the writer's strike. We acknowledge that the strike's not over officially, but we've had Charlie and I have had some time to talk about this, to weigh our options, to see what other shows are doing. And there are so many podcasts, and I know I came up with a couple of examples even as recently as last night that shows are paused or still talking about other things. But for every one of those, there were a bunch of other shows that were covering, a bunch of other podcasts that were covering these shows and stuff. So with that being said, we are going to talk about the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, hoping and praying that the strike is over by the time this episode is released. We're recording Monday night, and we're hoping for some really good news. If we're wrong, and if you're listening to this and you're like, I can't believe those guys are talking about this, please let us know. We are definitely not experts on this subject. We're doing this for fun. We've never had sponsorships or partnerships or agreements or anything like that.
Whoa. Don't put down the good folks at Manscaped, okay? Because I still have that t-shirt, and I still have that razor and the lotions and all that stuff. And, they did well by us, but I don't think they would have a dog in this fight.
Yes. No partnerships that pertain to Star Wars specific stuff or actors, writers, show specific things. Yes, we've done that. We've done the Patreon, but aside from that, we're pretty small fish in a rather large ocean. But again, that being said, we've heard from some listeners in our Discord and elsewhere that they want to hear about Ahsoka. They want our thoughts and stuff on it. So we've tried to avoid it till now, and we're just kind of like at that point where we're going to try this. If it's the wrong call, please call us out for it, and let's have that discussion. You can get us through any of our social channels, through Discord. We want to have that discussion. We want to do that, and we're really hoping that this strike is just over and we don't have to worry about the ups and downs, gray areas, little workaround things that we can kind of say, we're supporting this. We've donated to the cause. I know that doesn't, hey, donate so we can talk whatever we want. Like, that's not how this works. But we're making a call that feels okay for us right now, and it's definitely, me personally, still very up and down. Even like I said last night, Charlie and I talking, and I'm still like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. And we get this news of like, hey, tentative agreement, and that was kind of the thumbs up for me. Charlie, Peter, do either of you guys want to add anything to that before we jump in to talk about Ahsoka?
Looking at the strike, much respect to the people who have those very strong feelings. I mean, it's an orbit unto itself. If the show isn't watched, if services aren't subscribed to, there is no appreciable end to the strike, because services fail. There's no money. They can't make a deal with the writers or the actors, and things just continue to degrade. So it's difficult to, for me, we've been talking about Star Trek productions over on Code 47. Todd and I have been talking about Ahsoka over on the SFU Prime show. I mean, the world does go on. We don't happen to be members of either one of those unions. If we were, we wouldn't be working right now. I listen a podcast that I listen to, Peter, you're probably familiar with it, the Delta Flyers, which has two prominent actors from the Star Trek franchise. They have finished talking about their show, and they're just having conversations with their castmates. Mm-hmm. I was listening to an episode last week where they were talking to a third member of their show, where they went through and had to substitute the name of not only other shows that they were talking about, but the own show, that science fiction program that you were on, because they're staying loyal and honest to the fact that they are SAG-AFTRA involved, and they're actors part of that union. We're just people, we're offering commentary. I would love to say that we're influencers, and we have hundreds of thousands of people that hang on our every word, but we ain't there yet. Will we get there? No clue. But for the time being, I'm with Mark. If this creates a dialogue, if you're listening to this and you're terribly offended by the fact that we are talking about this, we haven't gotten that feedback on SFU unless I've missed it. I feel like I would have caught it if it was the case, but we're glad to contribute to the overall oeuvre of the motion that keeps Star Wars alive, if we can do it, even if our tiny 1/10 of 1/10 of 1% of the podcast listening public out there, our one guy in Uganda who listens to our podcast or whatever that we've seen occasionally in our RSS feed analysis, hey, yeah. I'm good. Peter, any thoughts on your regard?
I have nothing to add.
My thoughts are not deep.
That's all right.
Good deal.
As the guest, you can completely refrain from all of this serious talk and just prepare yourself for Ahsoka. And with all that being said, again, Discord, all our socials. I'm not on Twitter too much anymore, but I still get the notifications. So if that's the way, or X, whatever you want to call it, if that's the way you need to get us, yes. Discord's probably the best for me, or Instagram. Yep. Best, absolutely. But yeah, let us know. I want to have that conversation with people. That being said, let's jump in to Ahsoka.
All right. Shall I do some reading of the text?
Charlie, that's it. I was just going to say, take it away.
The Sacred Jedi Test. Okay. Part 1 is called Part 1, Master and Apprentice. Dave Filoni is writer and director from August 22 of 2023. Baylan Skoll, former Jedi, now working as a mercenary, and his apprentice, Billie Eilish. Shin Hati assault a new... Todd was like, oh, there's some Danish rapper or whatever. I'm like, dude, it's Billie Eilish. Stop being so stop being such an edgelord. I love Todd, but that was trying too damn hard. It looks like Billie Eilish, okay? Everybody knows who Billie Eilish is. Anyway, they assault a New Republic cruiser to rescue Morgan Elsbeth, who had been previously apprehended by Ahsoka Tano. Elsbeth informs Skoll. If you say Skoll and you think of dip, he is. Do you think he's dipping? You catch him off camera? No. Is that just a Michigan thing?
Think of the Viking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that was what it was named after. I don't know. I've never dipped. Elsbeth informs Skoll and Ahsoka that Ahsoka is searching for Grand Admiral Thrawn, who has been missing for years after he and Ezra Bridger were dragged to an unknown location by the Purrgil. Ahsoka and Huyang, I didn't remember I'm going to refer to as the David Tennant droid. That's just all that's going to happen. I prefer that. Obtain a star map to the location of Thrawn and potentially Bridger before being informed of Elsbeth's escape. Regrouping with the fleet, Ahsoka meets with General Harrison Dula, whereupon the David Tennant droid reveals that the star map is still locked does not have the key, get a better flash drive. Syndulla advises Ahsoka to obtain the help of Sabine Wren, Ahsoka's former Padawan, in unlocking the map. Ahsoka and the David Tennant droid travel to Lothal to meet with Wren, who takes the map. Just as she unlocks the map, she is confronted by Billie Eilish, who steals the map and stabs Wren in a very convenient lightsaber duel, which sparked my favorite new meme. This is Liam Neeson's face when you find out that you can recover from a lightsaber stab. You have that guy who's just making the nonplussed face.
You get stabbed through the heart, you get stabbed through the side. There are differences in anatomy.
He got stabbed in the lower abdomen.
He got stabbed right here, right through the spinal column.
Right okay.
He ain't recovered from that.
That's because she got stabbed in the boob, basically. It was kind of a boob.
She got stabbed in the kidney.
And it cauterizes that wound. Like you're not, but like
so you just have a kidney with a hole in it. Yeah. Is that like a? Yeah. So you have a whistling kidney every time it's processed. When you drink a pint of beer, it's just.
That's exactly how it works.
What's her name in Book of Boba Fett is any indicator? You can just replace the whole area. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah, with Ming-Na Wen. Yeah, exactly. She has a whatever it is. Her pancreas is made out of solid titanium.
So do you guys want to combine these two? Because I already have thoughts that are firing off on these. Okay,
we can do that. I can read part 2.
All right, do that first.
And again, these episodes both aired back on August 22nd, so really it is kind of a one-parter. Part 2 was longer than part 1. Part 1 was almost an hour, and I think part 2 is only 40 minutes or something like that. So essentially, it's like a feature film. A typical feature film being 90 minutes or more.
Realistic.
Okay, yeah. Part 2 is part 2. Toil and Trouble. Steph Green is the writer, directed by Dave Filoni, or perhaps the other way around, not sure. Skoll and Billie Eilish take the map to the planet Cedos, where you can buy a nice chair. Where Elsbeth reveals that Thrawn is trapped in another galaxy. Never saw that coming. Wren, who survived Billie Eilish's attack, big surprise, recovers and informs Ahsoka of her findings, but also traces the droids that attacked her to Elsbeth's factories on Corellia, home planet of Han Solo and Wedge Antilles. Wink, wink, wink. Seeking the map, Ahsoka and Syndulla travel to the Corellian shipyards, where they discover a massive hyper unit being built by workers loyal to the Galactic Empire. And that snivelly weasel guy, he was totally in something else where you're like, oh, this guy was a lawyer, an accountant or something. You just couldn't stand him. Imperial Weasel. Syndulla chases after the transport, carrying the hyperdrive, while Ahsoka duels Marok, a former Inquisitor working for Elsbeth. Marok and the transport escape, but not before Syndulla's astromech droid Chopper attaches a tracking device with all his and his woohoo, very animated, but it makes R2-D2 look like an asshole. After arresting the shipyard workers, Ahsoka is contacted by Wren, who is ready to become her Padawan again after a wicked sweet self-haircut, Jack Bauer-like self-haircut. Padawan again, and find Bridger after she recuperated and cut her hair. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead in the narrative. My bad. Elsbeth is contacted by Skoll, Billie Eilish, and Marok, who obtained the hyperdrive so they can finish building her ship. The Eye of... I would say Slan because my cursor was over the eye, so I'm like, Slan? Eye of Sion. To find Thrawn, Skoll senses that Ahsoka will come for them. Schwa, schwa, schwa. And that's part 2. All right.
Woo. Okay. So clearly we kind of know, usually we'll go off of these questions and off of these descriptions and be like, okay, what happened, and what's going to happen in the next episode. We kind of know a few episodes ahead of this. So what were your initial thoughts watching these 2 episodes? Peter, let's start with you. Just like overall impressions of like, was this instantly gripping to you, or were you kind of like, I'll see where it goes?
Okay. I will attempt to not get into the weeds because I'm very bad at that.
Be out of the weeds. Don't be the weed man. He's the weed dude.
I'll just follow the wolves. We'll disappear into the weeds and we'll come back and we'll have a good time.
Oh, I like it. I'm sold.
So, anyway, for me, this got my attention pretty well. It probably helps that I've watched all of Rebels and have read every single Thrawn book because I love the character. So this had my attention pretty close. I did like how it kind of began Indiana Jones style.
Very much
with,
so.
With Ahsoka herself. The prison break was definitely a good tease. I did like it. But I really, really liked how this was like bringing things from Rebels to life, like Lothal and
a great appearance by Clancy Brown, who is much like Kevin Hart, has been in everything. Great dude.
Realistically, like that first episode was bits and pieces of that last episode of Rebels.
And then the second episode like had that ending shot. So
shot for shot, like there were a few of those. Yeah, like the
second episode, right at the end, there was like a shot for shot, angle for angle. Pacing was just a touch different, but it was basically the same as the ending shot.
Blocking, it's awesome.
Yeah. So like I really liked how Filoni brought all of this to life. And made it feel like there is some pressing need here for action. I think we don't hear much about. I think the Senate comes in later. I think that's a later episode. But I like how you have to talk with the Republic to get onto your mission. Finding out Thrawn was in another galaxy. I liked that because it made it a little bit more difficult, and it would explain why he hasn't been around.
Right.
In part because my original theory was like, oh, he got sent to the unknown regions, and so they're just like dealing with stuff with the Chiss ascendancy, and we're going to see a bunch of that crap. But, which I love the Chiss, so I wouldn't mind. But, another galaxy works. So I really, really enjoyed these two episodes. I liked how they did have some Imperial sympathizers. Because it's like, well, the Empire doesn't vanish overnight. They would still be around.
Yeah. The very deceptive end of Return of the Jedi, like, oh, everything's great now, where there's no way. You had a galaxy full of, of this the biggest military force that particular reality has ever seen. It's not just, you can't just snap your fingers. Because really, if you follow the chronology, it's another year of fighting before the Battle of Jakku, which creates the big graveyard that you see in The Force Awakens, that ended everything. And then this is still further after that, where you see things aren't really over because you still got Imperial remnants putzing about, and you got Moff Gideon running around doing his thing, trying to make clones and crazy bots and whatever. And so it goes on.
Yep.
And I love how these shows, like basically all the Mandoverse shows, and I'm counting this as a Mandoverse show, even though it's also kind of Rebels season 5. But anyway, but like all of these shows are kind of, it doesn't matter what you think of the sequels, but like kind of setting up the sequels of like the common kind of questions of like, there's cloning now. Well, of course we had the Clone Wars, but also like, they're doing some like dark side, some like force sensitive cloning. They're also like, how the hell did the First Order come up? Like they defeated the Empire. You're telling me another Empire just kind of like rose up? Well, it never really went away.
Right.
Like there are sympathizers, there are like underground sects, there are Grand Admirals hiding in other galaxies or far reaches or here, there, everywhere. And like, the seeds were planted for the First Order to just rise right up.
I think that this is where we see some of Filoni's skills coming out. Because like a lot of people griped about the Clone Wars and the prequels, and then the Clone Wars show came out and started to like expand the universe there, and then people started to really like that particular period of the Star Wars universe. So I think wisely, regardless of what you feel about it, they're wisely employing Filoni to help rationalize choices that were made before he came around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. He seems to be the guy with the vision and who can tie in his vision with what's already established. Like you said, with the Clone Wars, like he took all the stuff that had happened and then said like, okay, I can make sense of that. I can not only make sense of that, but I can make people further invested. I can make people like it. I can make people way more emotional when they rewatched the whole thing as a whole.
Right. Yeah.
Anakin's downfall, because you see like kid Anakin, you see a movie in the middle, and then you see the fall of Anakin. So if you just watch the films, it's like, that sucks, but like whatever. You watch the Clone Wars in there, it's like, oh god,
he was a good dude.
Especially that last season.
Yeah. Everybody thought he was so great, and he had buddies, and he was nice to the clones, and Ahsoka really looked up to him, and there was this big heartbreak when she walked away because she felt betrayed. The Order didn't back her up, and you could see it broke his heart, and probably was that little extra push she needed to get a little bit closer to Palpatine was her leaving. So yeah, it's family the family dynamics of it really came into play. Our little insular Jedi family. Of our core characters and how that all shook out.
Charlie, what about yourself? Any differing thoughts from Peter? Were you kind of same thing, captivated right away, or
I was not super high because Star Wars on Disney Plus it's admittedly kind of been all over the place. We had some nice Andor was unbelievable, but it was a slow burn, took a while to get going. There were parts of the book of the book of Boba Fett was trash to me. Sorry, didn't really care for it. There were parts of Kenobi.
It's like the last 3 episodes, dude. Like on a rewatch, I think it's the last 2 or 3.
Right. Then what was the purpose? What was the purpose of the first 3?
It was the whole thing, but I'm me.
But it's like Obi-Wan. I loved the first part of that, and then the end of a part of it got kind of nonsensical. So, and then Mando. First 2 seasons were great. Third season was kind of like I'm just not that sure. So. Star Wars on Disney Plus has kind of been all over the place for me. But I'm invested. I loved Rebels. Rebels came on in the fall of 2014. I was super engaged. I was like, this is the first real foray into not only animation and brand new characters, though obviously even early in Rebels they weaved in some R2D2 and C-3PO show up, Leia shows up, so on and so forth. In the end you meet old Obi-Wan, but you've got a new set of characters playing within this very exciting time frame, making a difference and moving things forward. It's like Rebels to me was a real accomplishment. I think they really did a lot, and then to see that story continue to move forward, I really did enjoy it. And to counter something that Todd has said, like, do people who've never seen Rebels, would they care about this at all? I don't know that anybody who's continuing to tune in to Star Wars program after Star Wars program is not invested because they haven't been watching it all the way along. Would you pretty much agree? Are there casual TV fans besides like, oh boy, Baby Yoda, and they watch Mandalorian and that's great, but beyond anything with Baby Yoda in it, are those casual people? Great example. I was in one of the shops I call in for my job this week, and I'm sitting talking to this lab manager, and she has Grogu stuff all over her office. And I'm like, and I made some off. That's something we do in sales. You pick something off on somebody's wall and you start a conversation about it because people love to talk about themselves. And I said, well, are you a fan of Star Wars or are you a fan of Grogu? No, I just like Grogu. And now that I'm talking about it, that's the divide of this. Is you have your Grogu's cute and I love it, like cutesy poo stuff like the Ewoks that April loves, my wife, but she loves Star Wars all along anyway. And then you have people like us who are just like, man, it's Star Wars, we're gonna do it. And there's gonna be peaks and valleys, like Peter and I are with Star Trek. You know what? We're gonna watch it all. Some of it is going to be amazing. Some of it is going to be somewhere in the middle. And some of it, we're not probably going to rewatch it that often unless we have to for the podcast. Like, we all have our opinions. It's going to be the same thing. If Mark comes to me and says, yep, we're going to redo watching all of the Disney Plus shows because we need content. So we're going to rewatch the Book of Boba Fett and we're going to really drill down on it. I'd be like, okie dokie. It's like I would grind through it.
I'm going to get Peter for those ones, Charlie. You can sit out that month.
Let's face it, in 2024, we may be doing exactly that. We may be going, hey, we're starting Disney Plus Star Wars from the beginning, and every week we're going to be talking about a couple of episodes. We may have no choice. I think anybody who's watching this is invested. They're initiated into Rebels, and Rebels had, and again, I couldn't say like, oh God, it was wildly popular and blah, blah, blah. And how successful was it? It's not like a film at the box office where like this movie made $1 billion. And it's not like Endgame where everybody and their mother and their sister saw the movie, where you don't really know per se, just off the top of my head, how popular was Rebels? How many people were seeing it, talking about it? I mean, it was on for 4 years, 4 or 5 years, which speaks to the fact that somebody was renewing it, which means under the traditional model, there were still ad revenues being generated. Somebody was paying for it to be on. Therefore, it was popular to a certain regard. It wasn't just being made because whatever. So, yeah, I kind of deride my partner Todd's thought that, well, I just don't think this really speaks to the masses. It doesn't need to. The masses in this case are people who have been watching Star Wars TV since 2014. So I think anybody who's tuning into this is digging it because they enjoy it. If they're watching it, they enjoyed Rebels. Or some of us, it's Star Wars, it's content. I'm going to watch it so I can either love it or I can bitch about it. And frankly, if you look at social media, it's a lot of the latter one, but you know what? That's okay.
I would love to hear, like, if anyone has like a friend or a partner or something that has like, hasn't really kept up with Star Wars, or definitely like, I want to hear someone that hasn't seen a single frame of Rebels and what did they think of these 2 episodes? Because like you guys said, like coming in as a Rebels fan, this was like, okay, we've got like a couple of shot for shots. We're seeing some live. Like,
you feel like you're in there.
The same voice actors are now in live action for like, right. And just like the casting was perfect. The locations were perfect. The Lothcat was perfect. Like, let's just go. They even brought like Huyang in there for Clone Wars fans. Like, Star Wars cartoon fans were eating good these first couple of episodes.
We're eating good. I like that.
Damn. So I was just like watching these 2 episodes, just like jaw on the floor the whole time. Like, I'm invested. You throw in a little Indiana Jones in there. Come on, are you kidding me, Filoni? Jesus, like,
what are you doing to me? Yeah, exactly.
I can't handle this. I had to rewatch them both because I was just like, I can't. My mind was just exploding, tiny little explosions the whole time.
Explosions.
And then you start it right off with, again, Balin, who just was like the most imposing villain since Darth Vader.
He's
going through that
job.
that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Spectacular
what a loss
villain.
Too.
Loved
like
him.
Rey's passing was just like, just hit so much harder.
Right.
Not that it wasn't tragic before, like, passing away at a pretty relatively young age.
Right.
And but like seeing how well his character was received, just how good he is in every single scene. Yeah. Like, dude, that sucks. Cause like that prison break was just like, that is a Darth Vader level threat.
Right.
Just going through just this big imposing figure. And then you have his little Tasmanian devil sidekick.
Yeah. Here comes Billie Eilish. She's the bad guy.
Billie Eilish. Yeah. Like just, like, she's just unhinged feral raccoon energy, and he's just like,
I love how she had the Padawan braid hiding in her hair.
I noticed that just when I was rewatching this yesterday. I was like, oh, that is interesting because they're mercs. They obviously identify with the dark side. They bled their crystals and they have red lightsabers.
Not quite.
Nope, they're orange.
Is it? Oh,
yep. And they did that on purpose.
Well, break it down for me. What's up with that? I've heard this theorem before about orange sabers, but why don't, for the sake of our listeners, why don't we go through that? What is that all about?
Peter, you want to run with that?
Well, I just know some of the behind the scenes stuff for it. Basically, the behind the scenes reason was Filoni made the lightsabers orange. One, because there was a little, in certain viewings of some of the older films, the color correction was wonky, and so Darth Vader's lightsaber did in fact look orange. Or if you play some of the older video games, it was orange, not fully red. But the main reason that they chose to do that was to throw you off, because crimson red is dark side, evil, Palpatine, Darth Vader, we're going to murder your face. But orange is like,
I'm going to murder up your face.
Quite there. So the idea with Filoni making them orange, not red, is to kind of lean more towards they're not Sith, they're not full dark side, they're more just dark Jedi, to kind of bring in that old expanded universe term.
We might murder up your face, but let's go to brunch first. Maybe I'll even pick up the tab.
I may murder your face, but I do have potentially noble reasons for doing so.
Right, exactly. Like I said,
that's
brunch,
what I was going to bring in. Yeah, is you can tell just the way he, like, they're mercenaries, they're surviving in this world, but they're also still honorable. And again, we've seen some of the later episodes. In these 2 episodes specifically, we don't quite know what he is, but like he's said now, like, again, we're breaking that wall and going further episodes, like we find out like he was a Jedi. He's broken since that, Order 66. He saw the downfall, he saw the fallacy of the Order, and he's training Shin to be different, to be better, to be something new. And I don't think we've gotten an in canon like explanation other than, like the behind the scenes stuff that Peter just described. But like it seems that he's not afraid. He is more dark Jedi than Sith. He's not afraid to use those emotions, the dark side energy a little bit. He's not afraid to do some dark stuff, but he's not letting that consume him. He still has that honor. He still has that code. He still has that kind of, responsibility and, whatever it is. But yeah, they're not quite dark. So also Balin does wear a green kyber crystal in his belt. So I don't know if that's his original if that's something maybe he picked up from a murdered friend during Order 66. Who knows?
Could be former master.
Right.
Former master. Yeah, whatever it is, right?
It could be the homage.
but yeah, definitely interesting characters, and I can't wait to them. I can't wait for them to explore more of exactly what those, and I hope they do, like what those orange sabers mean.
Yeah.
Or it might just be like the explanation that we've been seeing right now is like, we're something new. We're something different. We're not Sith.
Right.
We're not Jedi.
It's not chocolate. It's not peanut butter, but it's in the same jar. It's that stuff.
and you see, I think he's trying to be better. And again, for those kind of noble reasons, even though he's, making his due as a mercenary, because that's what he has to do right now.
Right.
But he seems like he has a higher purpose or a higher goal in mind. So it's kind of definitely an interesting character for sure.
Absolutely.
That being said, any other favorite characters that we've seen, like pop-ups that made you guys just lose your mind?
My favorite
or
psychopathic trash can.
Yes.
Oh, and so spot on. From his traditional appearance.
Oh, it was exceptionally accurate. I didn't touch your stuff, Chopper.
That whole exchange of like, shoot it down. I can't shoot it down. It'll fall on the city. And that's bad? It's like, yes, you mass murdering psychopath. That's bad.
Yeah. I was enjoying Sabine. So I was watching in the first episode where she's still going through her, goth girl punk phase, FU, riding on her speeder bike, listening to her. I love the punk rock-ish kind of emo she's listening to, but it sounds like it's in Japanese, but it's more like maybe it's like
Huddies, I think.
It's Huddies.
Or it's another language, like what they did in Fallen Order.
So I'm like that's right, because Cal does have his his iPod shuffle that he's listening to the music. I'm a little bit more curious about pop music in the Star Wars universe just based on that. But yeah, I love her just being a bad girl. She's riding her bike and she's like, F you, Dad. And while she zips by, because and Dad in this case is Clancy Brown's character, was like, oh, you're supposed to be there for the thing. And she's like, oh gosh, well, whatever, bro. She's so Gen X. She's just absolutely right up my alleyway, because April and I are members of that proud generation, to which our motto is whatever. And that's her.
Peter, anyone other than Chopper just making you fangirl out, or what?
In this episode, it was primarily Chopper. I mean, I loved seeing Hera as well. I mean, any of the Ghost crew, but it was Chopper particularly.
Yeah.
I was actually really excited to see Hu Yang as well.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be my answer.
Mostly because it's just like, I love that droid. Does it make sense he's still there? I don't know, because we don't know what happened to him. But it's really cool to see him and the sass that he brings. I love how Star Wars droids are just sassy.
They can always patch together a droid. Is it weird that we're talking about the fact that none of us have talked much about Ahsoka herself throughout any of this?
Well, she's already appeared, so that's kind of like, it's not a new thing.
Yeah, it's true, but it's just, and that's the gripe that I've heard from Extra. That's the gripe that I've heard from our mutual friend John. My mutual friend John, especially when we were college roommates back in MSU, he was a Star Wars guy. I was a Star Trek guy, though obviously I have a strong affinity for Star Wars. He has just not been enjoying the show. He just feels like, oh, Ahsoka's so dour, blah blah blah. Just really can't deal with it. And then we talked about a later episode of the show where we see a little bit more of the ensemble coming out and taking the reins in the most recent episode, which we'll talk about obviously a few episodes down the road. And even Mark, you had said, hey, this is an ensemble piece. We're enjoying different pieces from different characters, that the show might just as well be called, Thrawn's Folly or something. It's not about Ahsoka, it's not really, it's about this group of the family that is coming back together.
And it's got a really good through line so far, which we'll get more into in later episodes. But and it's going to be essential for Ahsoka's character. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, at least in these 2 episodes, it's just kind of a more of a state of the galaxy sort of thing. This is where we're at.
Right.
It's not a forward momentum yet, except for in the 2nd episode where Sabine pulls a Kanan and almost shot for shot, actually. He pulls a Kanan and cuts her hair. Which I thought was a really cool
exactly. That was a very, I said this April when we were watching it, that was a very Black Widow from Endgame, how you saw them 5 years later and she just had never cut her hair, so the tips of her hair were white and the red had grown out. This was pretty much the same thing. Sabine has naturally purple hair, but she had obviously dyed it, creamsicle orange or whatever the hell that was, and that was the tips. So when she cut it, her hair was purple again. But it was different colors in Rebels. But I think she's like a natural blonde. She's a natural purple. That's her regular. That's a Mando hair color, I guess.
Even the first couple of episodes, I mean, Ahsoka is a little bit more reserved than I think we're used to seeing her, because we're used to seeing her so much in Clone Wars when she's a kid. She's a literal child.
And also bouncing off Anakin, who's just a firecracker in his own right.
Yeah. True.
So in this, she knows that her former master / best friend / brother murdered everyone she ever loved.
Whoops.
That's going to take a little of your pep away, as you become older. I don't mind the characterization of her at all. I think that's kind of going to be a realistic take of someone who's seen the very worst of war, betrayal, heartache, and then secretly trying to build up this resistance. I think, I really think that's a pretty decent characterization of her. But I also loved, like I said, the Indiana Jones aspect of it. Of she just kind of goes where she needs, and it was the same thing in Mando. She goes. Why didn't we see her in the original trilogy? Well, because she's doing other shit. She's Captain Marvel.
I got stuff going on. There's stuff.
And we heard that explanation of, hey, where were you, Captain Marvel? Sorry, there's a billion other planets and none of them have the Avengers.
Yeah.
That's Ahsoka, right? There's no Jedi left.
Yeah. I'm doing stuff. I got a calendar. Planets. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. We've got Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, Lando, they're off doing their thing, but who's on the other side of the galaxy cleaning shit up? Ahsoka. Movies that just didn't shift over that way, and that's where she was. So I kind of like that characterization of she's just been doing what she needs to do for the galaxy, whether it's in the background or foreground or shadows or whatever. She just does what she needs to, because she was trained since she was 1 to be a soldier.
She's she's out there full crumbing it. Yes.
So I understand, but we also saw some great lightsaber action with her versus all the droids right away. Her versus Marok, who was such a cool character, especially in these first couple of episodes, and an Inquisitor that survived longer than Vader. Mm-hmm. That's neat.
Still kicking in 5 years.
Managed killed by Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. So we'll get to what happened to him later. Before we kind of wrap this up, I want to ask you guys the last question. I'll go on favorite like scenes. We've touched on a few of them so far. Peter, any other scene that we haven't touched on jumping out to you?
I'm trying to remember. Okay, that scene happened in the next episode. One of the ones that
that's
really,
the tough thing.
One of the ones that really stuck out to me, not in like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, but just like I really like the world building that went into it, and the acting was the office in Corellia, where they meet, the little scuzzbag Imperial sympathizer,
right?
But like how that was played off and how it worked, like you're sitting there going like, something's bad's gonna happen here.
And he's one of those, I have to check my files about that, whatever. Please kill her. That guy.
Yeah, so like I thought that scene was really, really well done. You had you had both Ahsoka and Hera who were like on the same wavelength. They knew what was going on. They were working together. You see a little bit of that family dynamic. But then you also have like these Imperials who are trying their hardest to not raise the flag and let everyone know they're Imperials.
Put your little Imperial camp away.
It's happening right out the window. So it's like, yeah, I thought that scene on Corellia was really well done there.
So, absolutely.
Gotcha. Absolutely. I was a fan from the jump of the rip roar and rip snort, those poor rebel officers, talk about all very low graded. You have all lieutenants and captains, have any senior officers, because they're all cannon fodder. That first guy, like, well, you're right about one thing, dude, as Skoll is flipping the guy's arm around. We are no Jedi. Oomph! And then you see Billie Eilish is just like, do slash kill, gets on the bridge, cuts down, the XO who's sitting in the chair, and there's just no hope. They're wearing those god awful ugly uniforms for Return of the Jedi, the tan and the blues. Man, that's a cosplayer's nightmare. It's like a color palette gone wrong. No joy target on that one. Will not be wearing that one myself.
No, yeah, but yeah, amazing scene. Such a great start. Like I said, that was you instantly knew you were dealing with, like, again, the most imposing badass bad guy since
badassery
since Vader. Like I don't even know of like the Rogue One hallway scene. Like that's just what it reminded me, like that ending,
big time,
right? Like it was just like, holy shit, like this guy is just an unstoppable force. Between that and, like, Charlie, you already mentioned it, one of my favorite scenes, that reintroduction to Sabine on the speeder bike. Just like
Gen X and the shit out of that. Yeah. Just
holy crap. Yeah.
If you did.
Just amazing. Just so great for her character like that. And these are those little things that I'm like, I think you could enjoy this without seeing Rebels, because they do these little shots of like, hey, you haven't seen Rebels, so here's like a scene that has a couple of lines, but really shows you what the character's about.
Yeah.
Or like how they right after that show like Ezra's hologram to establish that relationship. So I really think they went out of their way to make it so you don't have to watch Rebels to appreciate it more.
Right.
You don't have to.
And ease of access is, if you're watching this on Disney Plus, Rebels is equally accessible. So you can just go back and knock out a couple here and there, find a list, watch a top 5, top 10, whatever it is, kind of breeze through it. You're going to be just fine.
They did that. There was a list that Disney Plus curated of like the watch this before Ahsoka list. Like there's a few of those, and they cherry picked some Clone Wars and some Rebels. Like it was a great little list that they had up before the series started.
They're so smart. If only they would pay their people, maybe we would be in this dilly of a pickle.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, man, there's so many. Yeah, so much to love about this show so far. And again, we won't get into the further episodes, but I think it started off strong with these two. I've been hooked right from the start. Sounds like you guys were too.
For sure.
Any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I'm glad we're doing this. I'm excited that we're going to continue talking about this. As you're listening to this, episode 6 has aired. We're getting 8, but we're just going to be breaking. I think we're going to break this down sequentially. Except episode 5 is going to get its own standalone, is what we've talked about, just because of the depth and breadth of how that went. And it's been awesome having my sideman Peter on board. I can always count on this guy. He's very multifaceted. Knows Star Trek just as good as me. Knows Star Wars probably better than the both of us. Even though I was the one who saw the movies back in the old days before you guys were born. But still, I digress.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us again, man. This was an absolute pleasure. I hope you'll come back. Especially as we get to discuss Thrawn a little bit more.
You're going to go full blue?
I don't think, not after work. I don't think I could pull that off.
I'm not wearing that to work the next day.
I mean, you call for a tech guy and a chiss shows up.
Oh, God.
You know it's going to get fixed, but you might get, killed.
It might be a little bluey. Ooh, watch out. This one gets a little blue.
That is it. Peter, thanks for joining us. Can you, tell people where they can find you on the internet if you want to be found on the internet?
I mean, if you want to look for me, you can find me at Petrus Aquinas on most things. I'm not terribly active, but if you ping me, I might say something.
It could happen. Oh, my goodness. And I had taken a page from Mark's book. I'm a little more active on Instagram these days. I try to stay the heck off of Facebook. Facebook and I have issues, but I'm C3 Carpenter, spell it out, over on Instagram. I am still dabbling on X/Twitter, but I feel like they're in a downward spiral, but I am at the C3 over there. But primarily, my wife, April, and I, along with Peter and several other wonderful people, are the core folks that run the USS Grand Petoskey, one of the biggest chapters of the international Star Trek fan club known as Starfleet International. We are based here in West Michigan, but we do have Trekkers with us from all over the state and several other chapters in Michigan. I also am privileged to run Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. If you love Star Trek, live in one of those places, drop me a line at any of my socials or give us a Google at Region 13 or at USS Grand Petoskey, and we can connect the dots for you. Mark, what about you, my friend?
You can find me everywhere at _Canardian. Like everyone said, so far just mainly Instagram and our Discord channel. So
yes.
Discord server, always something going on in there. And again, I put out the thing today, and Peter jumped on and said, I can join you for that. So there we go. It's if you want to be part of that conversation, that's the best place to do it.
Awesome. Good deal. All right. Well, with that, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
May the force be with you. Rex, play us out. Yeah.